I lost 25 pounds after menopause with Asian Pilates, but the truth is, the weight did not start coming off when I found the perfect routine. It started coming off when I stopped doing one thing that I thought was helping me, but was actually keeping me stuck. And if you are in menopause right now, trying to do everything right and still feeling like your body will not move, I want you to stay with me. Because this mistake is much more common than women realize. For years, every time my body changed in a way I did not like, I responded the same way. I tightened up. If I felt bloated, I got stricter. If my clothes felt tighter, I got more controlling. If the scale went up, I told myself I needed more discipline. If I felt discouraged, I answered that feeling with even more pressure. At the time, I thought that was responsibility. Now I see it differently. I was turning every uncomfortable moment into a reason to push harder. And after menopause, that was exactly the wrong move. I did not understand that at first. In fact, I thought I was being strong. I thought the women who got results were the women who stayed tougher than their body, tougher than their cravings, tougher than their excuses, tougher than their emotions. So when my body stopped responding the way it used to, I did not become gentler. I became harsher. And that is the thing I had to stop doing. I had to stop answering every signal from my body with more pressure. That was the shift that changed everything. But before I understood that, I was living in a pattern that looked productive from the outside and felt miserable on the inside. I was always trying to stay on, always trying to be good, always adjusting, correcting, watching myself, evaluating how I looked, how my stomach felt, whether my clothes fit, whether I had done enough that day. It was exhausting. Not just physically, but mentally. I was tired of monitoring myself all the time. I remember one night standing in the bathroom, already exhausted, looking in the mirror and pulling at the fabric around my waist, trying to decide whether my body looked bigger or whether I was imagining it. And what hit me in that moment was not just frustration. It was how much of my life this had started to take over. That is what menopause weight gain can do to you. It is not only the number, it is the constant mental noise, the private negotiations, the pressure, the quiet panic every time you feel like nothing is working. And when you live in that state long enough, pressure starts to feel normal. That was my mistake. I thought pressure was part of the solution, when in reality it had become part of the problem. Because here is what I did not understand yet. My body was no longer responding well to that constant tighten up signal. That signal did not make me feel safe, steady, or supported. It made me brace. And bracing changes everything. It changes the way you move, the way you eat, the way you think, the way you recover, the way you speak to yourself, the way you experience your own body. You stop living in your body and start managing it. That was exactly where I was when Asian Pilates came into my life. And no, what stood out was not that I thought, this is going to help me lose 25 pounds. What stood out was something much more immediate. My body did not push back against it. That was new. Because by that point, I had tried enough methods that all came with the same emotional cost. They demanded effort, but they also came with pressure, tension, guilt, or that all or nothing feeling where one bad day made me feel like I had failed. This felt different. It was structured, but it did not feel punishing. It was intentional, but it did not feel aggressive. It asked me to show up, but it did not make me feel attacked by the process. And that difference matters more than most people think. Because the first breakthrough did not come from doing more. It came from no longer feeling like I had to overpower myself to keep going. That was huge for me. Before this, so much of my consistency came from fear. I was trying to stay on track because I was afraid of gaining more, afraid of losing control, afraid of not recognizing myself, afraid that if I eased up for even a moment, everything would get worse. Fear can make you very disciplined for a while, but it also makes the process heavy. And a heavy process is hard to sustain. That is one reason I kept ending up in the same cycle. I would start strong, then feel depleted, then discouraged, then disappointed in myself, and then I would promise to come back even stricter next time. That cycle looks like commitment, but it is actually friction. Asian Pilates broke that friction. For the first time in a long time, I found something I could return to without that huge inner argument. I did not have to push myself into it through guilt. I did not feel like I needed to become a harder version of myself just to stay consistent. And when that happened, another shift followed. I started noticing signs of change that I had almost stopped believing were possible. Not dramatic ones at first, subtle ones. My body felt less inflamed. My stomach felt less hard. My clothes felt less unforgiving. My face looked less tired. I did not feel like I was carrying so much tension all the time. That was the moment I realized something important. The old version of me kept looking for proof on the scale first. But the real proof showed up earlier than that. It showed up as relief. And I think many women miss that moment because they are still looking for dramatic evidence. They want a big result before they allow themselves to believe anything is working. But often the first sign is smaller and more meaningful than that. It is the moment your body stops feeling like it is fighting you every minute of the day. That was what changed for me, and it changed because I stopped doing the thing that had kept me trapped. I stopped turning every sign of discomfort into a command to tighten up even more. I know how easy that is to do in menopause. Your body changes, and the instinct is to control more, to monitor more, to restrict more, to correct more. It feels logical. It feels responsible. It feels like the adult thing to do. But if the result of that approach is that you feel more stressed, more disconnected, more swollen, more discouraged, and less able to stay steady, then it is worth asking a harder question. What if that approach is not helping? That was the question I finally let myself ask. And once I asked it, everything opened up. Because the answer was not stop caring. The answer was not give up. The answer was not be lazy. The answer was to stop using pressure as my main strategy. That is very different. I still cared. I still wanted results. I still wanted my body to change. But I stopped assuming that more force was always the path there. That changed my consistency. It changed my emotional state. It changed the way my body responded. And over time, that changed the weight. That is why I say I lost 25 pounds after menopause, after I stopped doing this. Because this was not just one habit. It was a pattern. A whole pattern of answering fear with control, discomfort with pressure, frustration with punishment, and resistance with even more force. That was what I had to stop. And once I did, Asian Pilates became more than a method. It became the first thing that fit the body I was living in now, not the body I used to have. That is such an important difference. A lot of women are trying to use old rules on a new body and then blaming themselves when those rules stop working the same way. I did that too. I kept trying to return to what used to work, and every time it failed, I made it mean something about me, that I was slipping, that I was weaker, that I was losing discipline. But the truth was much simpler and much kinder. I was not failing because I did not care enough. I was failing because the strategy no longer matched the phase of life I was in. That realization changed the way I saw everything. It made me less ashamed, less reactive, less desperate. And when you are less desperate, you make better decisions. You stay steadier. You stop swinging between extremes. You stop living in that exhausting emotional cycle where every day feels like a test. That is when my body finally started cooperating. Not perfectly. Not instantly. But enough that I could feel I was no longer trapped in the old story. And that mattered emotionally even more than physically. Because once you stop seeing your body as a constant disappointment, something in you softens. You stop waking up and bracing for failure. You stop judging every choice so harshly. You stop thinking you need to earn your right to feel good in your own skin. That kind of shift changes more than your body. It changes your whole relationship with yourself. If you are in menopause right now and feel like you keep trying harder but getting nowhere, I really want you to consider this. The thing keeping you stuck may not be lack of effort. It may be the fact that your effort is built on pressure. And if that is true, then the breakthrough is not always about doing more. Sometimes it is about stopping the thing that is keeping your body in a constant state of resistance. That was true for me. And that is why this was such a turning point. If this resonated with you, go watch the Menopause Weight Reset series next, because I made that playlist for women who are exhausted by the cycle of trying harder and still feeling worse. Each video builds on the last one, and if this story felt familiar, that playlist will help you feel more understood, more supported, and much less alone. And if this message spoke to you, please subscribe to Hormonal Balance Institute. Every subscribe, every comment, and every bit of engagement helps this message reach another woman who may be silently blaming herself right now because her body is changing and nothing seems to work the way it used to. I want us to reach those women with something gentler, wiser, and more hopeful than the usual pressure-filled advice. So subscribe to Hormonal Balance Institute, and then go watch the Menopause Weight Reset series, because losing 25 pounds started long before the scale changed. It started the moment I stopped doing the one thing that had been keeping me stuck.